Good morning and welcome to AirSage Brewing Data. My name is Robert Kohler, and I want to thank you for tuning in to learn more about data today. A little bit about myself. I'm the CRO at AirSage and a professional transportation planner with about 2 decades of experience in the transportation and big data spaces. Today, we're going to be covering some very important topics: the University Transportation Center framework, innovative projects, products, and services under review by Traffic 21 and Mobility 21, and also benefits of transportation demand management strategies and leveraging big data. With that, I would like to introduce our guest for today, Lisa Kay Schweyer. Lisa Kay is the program manager at Traffic 21 Institute and Mobility 21. She leads research to design, test, deploy, and evaluate technology-based transportation solutions. She's a board member of the Association for Commuter Transportation and TRB TDM paper review and annual meeting programming task force co-chair. I'm very excited to introduce Lisa Kay Schweyer to the show. Hello and good morning, Lisa Kay.
Hi, Robert. Thanks so much for having me here today.
It's great having you here. So thanks for joining AirSage and all of our viewers today. I have a long list of questions, so why don't we jump right in?
Great.
So let's talk about the University Transportation Center framework and how people can get involved. Can you give us a brief overview of the DOT UTC program?
Sure. And I have to say, I've been in transportation about 20 years as well. And I was very surprised that I had never heard of university transportation centers before I actually learned about the position that I'm in now. They actually started in 1987 when the federal legislation was enacted that year. And in 1988, the first competition was held. The idea is to bring together a consortium of universities and community colleges to work on research, workforce development, and education to be able to look at different aspects of mobility. And what happens with that is there's different focus areas that come up. And ours happens to be mobility, which is why we're called Mobility 21. We also are partnered in our efforts with the University of Pennsylvania, the Ohio State University, and the Community College of Allegheny County. But there are groups like ours and UTCs around the country, and there are lots of ways for people to get involved, which I think you're probably going to be asking me about in a little bit.
Definitely. So as a program manager for Traffic 21 Institute and Mobility 21 UTC, can you tell us more about the vision and mission for conducting in-depth research on transportation, and also why is it valuable?
Sure. The UTCs were developed to help address the ever-growing need for the safe, the efficient, and environmentally sound movement of people and goods. That's kind of the official reason. But I want to talk about for a minute why I think it's important, because for many years I worked in nonprofits and found that no matter what issue we were addressing on the nonprofit side, transportation was squarely in the middle as a challenge for people to be able to connect with services, to be able to get to see their families, medical care. And my most recent position with the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission, where we took calls on a toll-free number, I actually talked to someone who needed transportation to get to school. And through our conversation, she explained that she needed to get to school because she needed to get this job because she had kids that she had to feed, she had rent she had to pay, and ultimately she felt that her life wasn't worth living if she couldn't get to this job training opportunity. And it just really hit me how integral transportation is and how important it is to all of our lives.
Absolutely. How have you seen the transportation industry evolve over the past 2 decades? I know you do a lot of research, so also what research challenges have you experienced in the transition to the current transportation and structure of today?
Thinking back, I kind of chuckle because one of the first research activities I was involved with was collecting data from drivers along certain corridors. And we had to order pencils. because we were handing out papers and we needed to make sure people could write down what they were doing with their trip. And what I've seen in 20 years is that we're no longer buying pencils to be able to have people fill out surveys, that we're able to use information that we're gathering from personal devices, from vehicles, from other sensors that are able to provide that same kind of data that we're looking for. One of the things that I have seen that is a challenge is how we're preparing the next generation of workers to be able to work on the automation. And so I mentioned earlier, we partner with the community college. They're working with industry to try to look at what the needs are for the next generation of workers. Everything from auto mechanics that can work on all this automation to people that can understand and work on mechatronics, data analytics, intelligent transportation systems. We find that students are really interested in the transportation world, which is very vast, and trying to support them through our transportation club at Carnegie Mellon. Penn and Ohio State are doing the same kinds of things. And we also know that current transportation workers, whether they're in planning, whether they're in public policy, or whether they're actually building the tech, that there's a great need for additional education. So we did institute an executive education program to help them learn a little bit more about managing artificial intelligence in transportation.
Very cool. And I remember, when you were saying you had to order pencils, I actually remember when I was a consultant taking the train to work, filling out the survey once a year with a little, like what I would call a golf course pencil and a little piece of paper, trying to fill out where was my trip, how often I made the trip and everything. And then, a couple years later, we transitioned into mobile app type of surveys and even passively collected data.
Exactly.
So that, I'm even happy to say I've seen that transition firsthand. But what are some of the new technology changes UTC has investigated or implemented to further enhance existing transportation networks?
So when I first started at Carnegie Mellon University, I had this grand vision that a robot would bring me coffee every morning, since they're so known for their robotics, but I'm still waiting for that to happen. But through our UTC program, we have been looking at all kinds of ways to try to provide some practical solutions to what's happening in transportation. We have one researcher who is looking at snow plowing operations and how to use algorithms to better predict and plan where those snow plows need to go to be the most effective. We have another researcher who's working on platooning for semi trucks. And we have people who are also looking at using municipal vehicles that are already on the road to serve as platforms for sensors to be able to measure the traffic control platforms that are operating every day. And most recently during COVID, another one of our researchers helped use the technology to be able to get food to students who were no longer able to get their food from school. And so it's all about transportation and making those connections. And then one other aspect of being able to impact technology is that we've been very successful in having companies spin out from the technology, that there was such a strong real world application that some companies, we've actually had 7 companies spin out in our operational and providing services, everything from automated vehicles and self-driving technology to being able to do roadway maintenance, to traffic light coordination, to looking at using artificial intelligence and big data and being able to look at building models that any jurisdictions or municipalities are able to use to make better decisions.
Excellent. And that's a full use of the complete transportation network. You've got snow plowing operations that need to occur, especially in Pennsylvania. You have, during COVID and other maybe holiday breaks or other unforeseen circumstances, people that might have relied on getting food from school that otherwise can't. So it's great seeing all these innovations and tech coming to hopefully then be deployed nationwide and even globally to make that impact a larger realized benefit for all. Why is it important for UTC to continue to develop new partnerships, not only with government, but also industry and community?
Yeah, I think the UTCs are very unique in the fact that we are partnerships and that we bring together universities and schools that are able to collaborate in a way that brings everybody's strengths to the front. And so that's one part of the partnership. But I think the other thing and why it's important is that I can't look through a microscope or build an algorithm that's going to give me a perfect answer. There's more to the solution than just one aspect. And so the partnerships that we build are giving us the additional information and insights that we need to be able to provide research that's going to be usable. And so each of our centers, the University Transportation Centers, are looking at research, they're looking at education, workforce development, tech transfer, as well as equity. And to be able to do that, we're partnering with other universities, we're partnering with community organizations, we're partnering with the government and industry to be able to look at what's happening and what needs to be investigated. So we have an advisory council that's a national level council that helps provide overall guidance to our program. And we also have a deployment partner consortium where all of these people are represented. And currently we just passed 190 partners, which is phenomenal, that we bring together once a year. And then we engage with them regularly on the projects themselves and being able to get feedback on what's happening and what they think is important. So the centers, you asked earlier how people can get involved. We are always looking for people who are interested in what we do and want to participate in the University Transportation Center research. There are lots of ways for your listeners to get involved. First, there's a list of all the UTCs on the Department of Transportation website. So if you want to find the one that's closest to you, please feel free to do that. Or you can always sign up and find out more about ours. That's fine too. Most of us have some sort of newsletter or outreach opportunity to learn more about what we're doing at the centers. There's opportunities to reach out and say, hey, I have an idea. This is a need I see in the community. Is there a way to pair with a researcher to take a look at this? There are often times and opportunities to connect with students or student classes that are able to look at certain problem statements that groups might have as well. For us, we have regular webinars and seminars that we offer that are at no cost, and they're also available online. We created a YouTube channel so that we have sort of a learning station that everybody can use. We can help share internship ideas and job opportunities with our students and our partners. We also can help provide speakers. So if you're interested in learning more about an aspect of the research, you can contact the UTC and we can put together some information or a discussion with that researcher to give you the information that you need.
Excellent. It seems like a quite worthwhile process. And I also like the feedback where, you're helping some people, but at the same time, they're providing you additional insight on what people might need or want to do. So it's good to see that dynamic. Let's talk about some of the innovative projects, products, and services that are being under review by Traffic 21 and Mobility 21, and also how that research can help people and improve equity. So it seems Traffic 21 is a multidisciplinary research institute, and the goal is to leverage technology behind transportation systems. Could you explain its framework and the importance of the organization?
Sure. The organization actually started because there wasn't a transportation degree that's being offered currently at Carnegie Mellon University. So when a local funder approached the university and said, there's got to be a better way, these traffic lights, there's got to be a better way to coordinate them. You have all this technology and this information. Can't we figure something out? We said, yes, we can. And what we did was start to look at how do we need to pull together teams of researchers from across the university. It's not just about engineering. I mean, that is a very important component. It's about computer science. It's about robotics. It's about street design. It's about smart cities. And so being able to bring together all of the different experts that are available throughout the university to look at these issues really helps us bring some technology-based solutions, but also well-rounded thinking around the problem. Mobility 21 is housed within Traffic 21, and that is our university transportation center that is currently funded with the Department of Transportation. So a lot of the funding a lot of the programs that we're doing there is to also work on mobility and to be able to look at how we're doing that outreach and being able to bring together the community and work with the 3 other academic institutions to be able to put forth a lot of different research components, the workforce components, and being able to work on education and to help the students who are going to be the transportation leaders of the future.
Absolutely, quite worthwhile. What are some of the most notable innovative research projects that you guys have conducted over there, and what role did they play in creating or changing policy?
That's a great question, Robert. We have a portal on our website that people can access all of the research, because it's sort of like asking who's your favorite child. There's all these different projects and they're all really important. We have some going on right now about looking at micromobility and whether replacing short car trips in urban areas impacts congestion. We have looking at connected vehicle infrastructures for smart cities, looking at how the built environment and pedestrian safety is impacting the Philadelphia region, looking at how understanding and guiding pedestrian and crowd motion, which has to do with autonomous vehicles and how they're detecting people who might be darting out mid-block. So there's a lot of research happening, and those are just a couple of the projects. But on the flip side, some of these projects also result in policy briefs. And so we also produce these policy briefs and make them available to decision makers, community leaders, academics, and all of those transportation nerds out there who just want to learn more about what's going on. We just released one on how to make sense of bus transit automation, which is looking at impact on drivers and labor, how COVID-19 affects major trends and forces shaping the future of transportation, and also driver warning technologies and partial vehicle automation, and how that partial vehicle automation can still benefit and reduce the crashes and increase safety even before 100% automation is available.
Awesome. So why don't we move on and discuss some of the benefits of transportation demand management strategies and how big data is leveraged. So you spent some time with a regional metropolitan planning organization. How important was TDM? And is there a discrepancy between what we actually know about TDM and how regularly it's put into practice?
So I think one of the hardest things for me about being at the regional metropolitan planning organization, and it probably would have been true at any organization, is that everybody has a different definition of TDM and what is transportation demand management. A couple weeks ago, you interviewed David Strauss from ACT, and I know they're working to try to codify kind of what that definition is. But as somebody who was supposed to be working on TDM, it was very hard to to be able to do that when everybody thought it was something different. Also, in many areas, local jurisdictions have commute reduction laws that require employers of a certain size to be able to have some sort of TDM plan in place. In the area where I was at, we didn't have that. But essentially, at the end of the day, we're trying to ask people to do something different and something new. So with TDM strategies, we're asking people to maybe change the time that they're traveling or how they travel. And we all know how hard it is to make changes. If it wasn't, we would all be physically fit, we wouldn't smoke. You get the idea.
Yeah, and I remember at the outset of my career working on TDM plans in the DC region, the easiest, most implementable thing that could actually have a huge impact was better leveraging the shoulder hours on the roadway. So instead of everybody arriving at 9 and leaving at 5, what if we let people arrive between 7 and 9 or 9:30 and head out somewhere between 4 and 6 o'clock based on what time they got there? That way we're not needing to have additional roadway capacity. And more importantly, it was probably easier to get people to do that than to try and get some people to switch from a single occupant vehicle to a carpool or a vanpool or transit. But yeah, I think you make a very good point that TDM means something different based on where you are or sometimes even who you are. And, what role do you think big data plays in the conduct of your team's research? I know there's a lot of data in TDM, but does it help guide or validate your research?
So I think earlier we talked a little bit about the pencil and paper and self-reporting. And I think that, I know that people are unpredictable and they may say they're going to do something and they may do something else. We don't always self-report what we're actually doing either. So I think the big data and the availability of information to be able to analyze what's actually happening is really important when it comes to TDM. Being able to look at the trends, being able to look at what's needed for the transportation system really is going to be better enabled by all of this information than it was when we were back on pencil and paper.
Yeah, definitely. It's come a long way what we can look at and interpret from either self-reported data through an app, like railway type of surveys, or even taking the passively collected data from mobile devices and connected vehicles to aggregate it and kind of synthesize something out of that. How do you think data can provide an opportunity to discern trends and changes in transportation systems? And how do you think this will help us scale and improve various elements of comprehensive transportation systems?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, having all of this data can really be helpful, but I think we also need to look closely and explore how we provide security, privacy, and equity around the way that data is collected and used. And I know one of the things that a researcher has been working on is looking at energy use data and social media data to be able to improve mobility. And it's interesting, it may not be something that we necessarily expected to have a connection, but what he found is that by looking at when the electricity spikes were overnight, they were able to predict when the rush hour would begin and when the traffic would become heavier. And the same thing with social media. And so I think we're only at the beginning of figuring out what we're able to capture and how that might be related to transportation, even if we didn't think it would be related at first pass.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I've never thought about that application with looking at social media and such, and maybe it's indicative of when people go to bed, when they might later wake up and begin their commute to work, which then turns into yet another thing where maybe we have variable speed limits or intelligent transportation systems that have variable traffic signal timings based on the actual demand as opposed to a time of day plan. So it's really full circle of all these different things working together for improving and benefiting a comprehensive transportation network. It's been excellent having you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us, Lisa Kay. Our conversation's been very informative for me, but also more importantly, I'm happy that we're able to share it with our viewers. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Robert, and your team for putting this together. It's been very thought-provoking, kind of thinking back over my time from the pencil and paper to where we are today. And I look forward to seeing where we're going to be in another 20 years.
Absolutely. And I look forward to the continued surveys I get through a mobile app or some other thing opposed to poking myself with a pencil on a train as it picks up speed and stops quickly. But with that, I wish all of you an amazing day and a great weekend. Come join us again for AirSage's Brewing Data.